Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today we're going to be talking about F1 or F1 the movie, whatever you want to call it. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. Okay. Obviously, we got to talk about Mr. Tyler Durden himself, Mr. Brad Pitt. He is like the main man of the movie. So, yeah, we got to look at his track record. Yeah, man's been around since the 90s. Even though he's had plenty of movies beforehand, I want to argue like his breakout role, the role where people really noticed him, was in Seven, a movie I've still yet to see. It'll happen one of these days, just not today, okay? But I will watch Seven, okay? I promise. Yeah, Seven was a big old hit, and it's iconic for what's in the box, and that scene. There were some of these other movies like 12 Monkeys. Pretty sure that was more of like a Bruce Willis star. I don't know about these other three movies here, like Sleepers. I guess that did fine. That did all right. Devil's Own didn't do all right, and 7 Years in Tibet didn't do great either. Okay. Meet Joe Black, that didn't do great either. But Fight Club, where he stars probably his most iconic role as Tyler Durden. That movie, although it didn't do well initially in theaters, mainly because of poor marketing, once that thing hit DVD and home media, that's where it blew up. That's where it became the cult classic it is today. So, yeah, Fight Club, definitely an iconic movie under Brad Pitt's belt. The rest of these, I mean, Snatch, just I don't even like. I did all right. Look at that, Jason Statham with hair. Was the last time you seen that? So then we got the Mexican Spy Game. I think those did okay. They got Oceans 11, 12, 13, where he was basically a part of an ensemble, but he was part of the main three alongside George Clooney and Matt Damon. Uh, Sinbad, he was just a voice in that. Troy did all right. It did fine. So yeah, there's Troy, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, big old hit in 2005. This was like when he and Angelina Jolie, they first like started their relationship because it started in the production of this movie. And it was like a big old tabloid thing, and the tabloids actually paid off because it was a massive hit. Uh, Babel, I don't think did okay. It did fine overall. Then there's Burn After Reading, where another movie I should probably watch one of these days. That did all right. Curious Case of Benjamin Button did. I think that did solid. Yeah, yeah, that did solid. Glorious Bastards did solid. He was the voice of Metro Man, so I can't really comment on that. Moneyball was a hit. I can't comment on Happy Feet 2. Kill 'Em Softly didn't do great. World War Z, I believe that's his biggest hit. I'm not counting Deadpool 2. He was there for like 5 seconds in that movie. But World War Z, that's his biggest hit. I feel like his presence is like the only reason why the movie made as much money as it did. Because this movie should have been a huge bomb. Like a 200 million zombie movie, that should have been a disaster, financially, but it wasn't. It ended up being a big surprise hit. And I think Brad Pitt is, you know, probably the main reason why it avoided catastrophe. His presence in the movie. So yeah, World War Z, 12 Years a Slave. I don't remember. He didn't really have like a big role in that movie. That was more of an ensemble anyway. Same goes for Counter Fury. He was the main guy in that. That Fury did all right. The Big Short. He was like one of the main four of that movie alongside who was it? Yeah, Christian Bale, Steve Carell, and Ryan Gosling, and it did all right. There's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that did strong. Lost City, I think it was kind of like a special cameo appearance. I'm pretty sure. But Bullet Train, he was the main guy in that, and Bullet Train did solid numbers. So yeah, so Brad Pitt, has a lot of hits under his belt, and he has been able to sell tickets based off his name. I mean, World War Z is a prime example of that. So his presence, can sell movie tickets sometimes. I'll talk about his underperforming movies later, but the man does have a lot of hits under his belt, and people know who he is. So I will label him as a pro. As for everybody else in this cast, the only one I really automatically recognize is Javier Bardem. So let's talk about him, because why not? So apparently he was in Collateral, No Country for Old Men, Eat, Pray, Love, Skyfall, Pirates of the Caribbean. I think it was Dead Man Tell No Tales. I think that's what it was called. Mother. Ooh, that's certainly a movie. He was in Dune. He was in Dune Part Two. I completely forgot he was in The Little Mermaid. Apparently, he was King Trident in that. But yeah, Javier Bardem is definitely a recognizable face. There's no doubt about that. I don't know about the rest of this cast though. Like Damson, has he been in any movie? No. Okay, well, it's been some movies, but really nothing. Like two, two that no one even remembers. And then Friday. What is Friday? Is that like shit? I'm trying to remember. Friday. Is that like I think that was like Tony had Jarvis, talk to Jarvis, but Jarvis basically became Vision. I think Friday was like the replacement for Jarvis. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. I think. Sounds right to me. But can't really comment on her either, really. It's not a whole lot here besides, being a voice in the MCU. But so the cast, mainly with Brad Pitt, I guess I'll label as a pro. Another pro is who's making this movie, Mr. Joseph Kosinski. I think that's how you say his name. So this man has made not too many movies, but he started with Tron Legacy, a movie that did solid business, financially. It wasn't like the hit Disney probably hoped it would be, because it did help the movie had like a whole lot of hype surrounding it, and it just didn't really live up to said hype. But it still did all right at the end of the day. Then he made Oblivion, a movie that also did like all right. Only the Brave, I think that was his only real dud, like at least in terms of box office, because it just didn't find an audience in theaters. But then this man tackled Top Gun. He made Top Gun Maverick, and as you can see here, the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, 718 million domestically, 1.4 billion worldwide. This movie had the box office run of a lifetime. It had a run that was very abnormal, to say the least. This thing came out in late May of 2022, and it just wouldn't stop. It just kept going and going and going and going and going for months. Months. Liz, number one, its first weekend. It's 15th weekend, number one. That doesn't happen. That does not happen. So this movie had a stranglehold on audiences for a long ass time, which resulted in its very high box office, total. And obviously, with a run like this, that's gonna increase your stock immensely. And apparently, well, I'm not gonna count Twisters because he didn't really make that. Apparently, the story was with him, but he didn't make the movie. With F1, he did. So Joseph Kosinski, only one real box office dud to his resume, and then this man has one of the biggest movies of all time on his resume. So, yeah, I say he's definitely a pro here. His presence is a pro. So that's pro number two. Pro number three. Reviews for this movie are very, very good. Has an 83% critic score, 97% audience score. That's the type of audience score you need in order to be a big hit, ideally. So yes, yeah, sky high audience score, and then its cinema score is an A. So word of mouth across the board is very, very good, and it bodes well for this movie's future. So yeah, word of mouth across the board, very positive. So that's an obvious pro right there. Another pro is that Warner Brothers, their 2025 has been interesting. Like the 2024 was very topsy turvy. I mean, it's had its highs, like with Doom Part 2, Godzilla X Kong, New Empire, and Beetlejuice. But boy, did it have its lows with Furiosa and Joker 2, both just doing awful. In 2025, at the start, wasn't looking too great. I mean, look what happened in March. They had two misses back to back in the form of Mickey 17 and Alto Knights, to the point where it felt like I forgot the two, but it was like this duo in Warner Brothers, like, the main people behind like the movies. And it felt like their jobs were in serious danger, like legit jeopardy. But ever since April, Warner Brothers has been doing fantastic in theaters. I mean, a Minecraft movie made almost $1 billion. Then they made Sinners, which was, a surprise hit that, it didn't seem like it would be a big hit. It seemed like a bit of a risk, but that risk very much paid off because, ended up being, like, I guess I lost my train of thought. I guess the least likely movie this year to reach like 200 mil domestically. That's what I very much believe. I mean, it deserves it, absolutely. But did I expect that to happen? Absolutely not. And then in May, they had Final Destination Bloodlines, which also did really good. So yeah, Warner Brothers is on a bit of a hot streak right now. And, after this, they have Superman in 2 weeks. So, which should theoretically continue said hot streak. So yeah, the fact that the Warner Brothers is doing great right now, I think bodes well for this movie. Because if Warner Brothers was making nothing but bombs, then I'd be very concerned. But because they have momentum on their side, then I can definitely label them as a pro. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's another pro right there. Um, Preview number is 10 million. When I saw this number for the first time, I was like, wow, okay. this is not what I thought was going to happen for a movie like this. Seeing that 10 million, I was like very surprised. Well, granted, this number, you got to put an asterisk on it because it counts like 2 days. It's 7 million of that came on Thursday, and the other 3 million came from like I think earlier in the week. But still, 10 million is a great number. I mean, How to Train Your Dragon, I think that was like 11 million preview numbers. I might need to check that if I can. How to Train Your Dragon, just for like a recent comparison. Yeah, 11.1 million. And that opened with like 80 mil. So that bodes very well for F1. to have a preview number this high, especially since it's not even like a big franchise movie. I mean, I guess it is, but in the world of movies, no. So yeah, very strong preview numbers. I'll label that as a pro. Um, I think that's it. I think I mentioned like all the major pros. I guess I can mention how next week is like Fourth of July, and I imagine this movie is gonna get a boost because of that. A lot of movies are. I feel like with this movie being like very much like a blockbuster esque movie, big blockbuster esque movie, I think it's the type of movie that people would want to watch on Fourth of July. So I'll label that as a pro too. And now I think that's it with pros. Okay, cons. Okay, so this movie is an Apple movie. It was like made by them, Apple Original Films, and yeah, their track record so far when it comes to their theatrical endeavors, it has not been great. In fact, it's been pretty damn terrible. So let's discuss that. Okay, two of these movies aren't here, but I'll, I'll just find them myself. So this really started with, if I can look it up, Killers of the Flower Moon, and then Napoleon. Yeah, if I can. Okay. So it started with Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese's Leonardo DiCaprio flick. And like you look at these numbers, like 68 million domestically, 156 million worldwide. You look at that and you're just like, oh, that's not great, but it's not like that bad. You look at that budget and you're like, oh damn, that's horrible. So yeah, but Apple was like, oh, well, box office really doesn't matter here. What matters is that basically free advertising for when it comes to like Apple TV Plus. Like that was like the way to spin these numbers. They did with Killers of the Flower Moon. They did with Napoleon. Was in the same boat where you look at budget versus box office, it looks disastrous. But Apple, they just apparently didn't care. But that would soon change. That would very much change later. Because then you have Argyle, a movie that was very much intended to be like this, theoretically be like this big movie, and it just fell completely flat on its face, only making 96 million worldwide, budget of 200 mil, so even worse than Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon. And people are just wondering like how long can Apple keep this up, just releasing these stupidly expensive movies, spending way too much money on these movies, and then getting like no returns. Like, what's the end? What's the end game, right? So yeah, Argyle was a big old miss. Then Fly Me to the Moon was their biggest miss yet by a country mile. This came out just last year. I bet you all forgot it even existed. Yeah, this was a disaster, just straight up disaster. Only made like 20 million domestically, 38 million worldwide on a budget of 100 million. Yeah, just horrible. And then I read like reports, some articles that Apple saw these numbers and said, "God damn, maybe we should stop releasing our movies theatrically." So it kind of pumped the brakes on their theatrical dreams, and it led to Wolves, this movie right here, which, funny enough, starred Brad Pitt. It was him and George Clooney. This movie was supposed to get a theatrical release until via Sony, until Apple, got cold feet and said, you know what? No. And they just yanked it like weeks in advance, mere weeks. And all this resulted in a sequel that ended up getting canned because, John Watts, the director of the movie, basically said he didn't trust Apple anymore. So, yeah, paints a rather grim picture, doesn't it? So, yeah, when I saw like F1 the movie, I thought its chances were not good, judging by what's happened in the past with Apple movies. So yeah, Apple movies and their just horrific track record, the box office wise, I'm gonna label that as a con. Another con is that it's summer, we are in blockbuster season, and after this weekend, things are not going to get any easier for F1 because next week we got Jurassic World Rebirth coming out on Wednesday, which will very likely dominate the 4th of July holiday, and then 1 week after that, you have Superman. So F1's got to deal with both of those movies. I'm not sure if it can handle that. I mean, granted, Top Gun Maverick handled like everything that was thrown against it, but that was Top Gun Maverick. Like F1's not going to be that. So yeah, just these big blockbusters on the way. Like that is going to be a problem. So yeah, I'm gonna label that as a pro. Incoming. You know, blockbuster competition. That's a pro. A con, my bad. So yeah, that's very much a con. And another con is that, in these I guess, movies that are based off cars that are not named Fast and the Furious, they don't have a great track record, believe it or not. So yeah, you gotta find the I guess auto racing, I guess, fits the bill. But yeah, unless your movie is a Fast and the Furious movie or it's an animated car movies don't sell that. Don't they're not easy to sell, and people just don't flock to see them. I mean, Ferrari, nobody gave a damn about that. Gran Turismo, that didn't do great either. Ford v Ferrari did decent. It's like the high point of like this genre. And I'm trying to find some others. Like Rush, that's a Formula. That's I guess another Formula One movie. And Rush. I mean, worldwide it did fine, but in the states it didn't really find much of an audience. So yeah, but I mean, you have like Talladega Nights, which was a hit, but like hits with like within like I guess live action car movies not named Fast and Furious, they're kind of few and far between. So yeah, that's a bit of a problem. So I'm gonna label that as a con. And I think that's really it. So opening weekend, the early numbers I've seen, this is projected to open with 55 million, 55 million plus, which is great, actually. I mean, this demolishes all other Apple movies and, just like live action, I guess, car movies, like as a whole. Like, this is fantastic. So, yeah. So, I guess I'm going to I'm going to go a little higher, 55 to 60 million. I think it's going to hit within that range. And it's total, I can see this having a long life as long as it doesn't get completely crushed by competition. If it can survive the next 2 weeks, I can see it having a nice solid life. So, ooh, I'm gonna say a range 150 to 200 million. I think it'll hit within that range. I think that sounds about right to me. So yeah, that's it for F1. All right, we got one more movie to talk about, just two, which is nice. We gotta talk about Megan 2.0, a movie that looks like it's just crashing and burning out there. So that's gonna be fun to talk about. And that'll be it for the weekend. So yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. You want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage. All previous prediction videos I made this year, the past few years. You want to watch any of them? Go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I went over all the movies that were supposed to come up but didn't. I don't think I ever talked about F1. If I did, maybe it was under a different name. I don't know. I have no idea. But never really talked about it. But there's 250 episodes, so if you want to binge watch that whole series from beginning to end, I highly suggest you do that, so go do it. There's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. June recap will come out the second weekend of July, so stay tuned for that. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos I made on the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.